honored to have the chance to introduce our next speaker, Mary Robinson. Mary Robinson was the first female president of Ireland. She was the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. She was the founder of Realizing Rights, the Ethical Globalization Initiative, and now she's president of the Mary Robinson Foundation Climate Justice. For me and for many advocates around the world, Mary Robinson is a personal hero and a great inspiration. When she was the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights and beyond, she set a new global agenda for human rights that changed our world. She encouraged us to look at the human rights responsibilities of business at a time when business and human rights was, by most of us, considered a contradiction in terms. She encouraged us, she pushed us to treat the economic underpinnings of injustice and inequality, to look at fulfilling economic and social rights with as much seriousness as we did protecting civil and political rights. It is a great honor to have her here today. Thank you so much for joining us, Mary.
Thank you very much for those warm words, and I too would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. As you've heard, I've been a very strong supporter of the Business and Human Rights Resource Centre from the beginning, and I'd like to congratulate Chris Avery and everybody that you've seen and heard this evening associated with the Resource Centre. Over the last 10 years, it has grown into an extraordinarily valuable resource for all of us who are interested in the area of business and human rights, and indeed human rights more broadly, because the website has developed in such an exciting way, and the research that is being done by the researchers that we've been introduced to, and who are in the key parts of the world where they can really know the situation on the ground, provide a transparency, as we've heard, and an access to this information. I was quite shell-shocked, in fact, when Chris Avery first approached me with the idea of a speaker series in my name. But at least I knew they'd do it well, because that's what the Business and Human Rights Resource Centre do. Last year was more tensionful. I was a little less relaxed. This year, I'm really enjoying the evening. And I was particularly pleased when the second annual event in this series was going to involve the largest country in the world, China, and a speaker on the link between human rights and the environment, because that's in fact a space that I've been coming into myself, linking development, human rights and climate change in the Mary Robinson Foundation Climate Justice. But also, when I had the honour to serve as High Commissioner for Human Rights, I did give particular priority to China, because it is the largest country in the world, because it was important to engage both with the Chinese government and with civil society and with those who were interested and involved in human rights in China, as we've heard from Mei Ling this evening. I made 7 working visits to China, and I have a very strong recollection of the kind of discussions we had on re-education through labour, on police and human rights, on the judiciary and human rights. The Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights would bring the experts from outside, and increasingly the Chinese authorities engaged. And during that time, China signed the 2 main covenants, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and more importantly, ratified the Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. And at the same time, it was clear that many of the rights to food and safe water, health, education and shelter, were being advanced quite dramatically by China, which was bringing hundreds of thousands, indeed millions of people out of poverty. And yet, as we've heard already, and as we'll hear more of, some of these rights are under particular threats in some cities and locations in China because of environmental pollution and toxic waste affecting China's water bodies. And it's for this reason that I was particularly pleased that the second speaker, main speaker in this series, is Ma Jun. I first heard of him when he was named by Time magazine in 2006 as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. And I was pleased to learn that he has been collaborating with the Business and Human Rights Resource Centre over the last few years in the context of his leadership of a network of Chinese environmental NGOs, calling on multinational IT firms in particular to take action to stop their supplier factories from dumping heavy metals into China's water bodies. And this actually provides another link with a different hat that I still wear as the outgoing chair of the Institute for Human Rights and Business. In January, John Ruggie will take over as chair. The Institute produced last August a report entitled More Than a Resource, Water, Business and Human Rights. And I think I'll slip a copy to Ma Jun later this evening in case he hasn't as yet seen a copy, because I think it's really important to link not just the worlds of addressing environmental concerns and human rights concerns, but also the work that is being done by the treaty bodies, by the rapporteurs on food, on water, and so on. This is where I think we can really make an important connection. Ma Jun will speak on environmental challenges and China's green choices. He is the preeminent environmental advocate in China today. And his book, written in 1999, China's Water Crisis, warned about the potentially catastrophic consequences of heedless, unsustainable growth. He has brought his journalistic skills and his clear and I think very courageous advocacy, and indeed China's own statistics, to bear on the efforts that he is making to address these environmental concerns. I was also impressed when we spoke earlier at his superb command of the English language. And I thought to myself how few of us are as fluent in Chinese, and it seems to be necessary that we make that more of an equal way of being able to communicate directly through language. But I think the interest that I would particularly have in the work that Ma Jun is doing is to understand how important it is that within China there are voices that can speak in an appropriate way and make a difference. It is true that the most significant factor about Ma Jun is that he is well recognized within his country as speaking out courageously on issues and making a difference on the ground and giving leadership, the kind of leadership that is incredibly important because of the link between human rights and environmental concerns. So it's my great pleasure now, and indeed my honour, to invite him to be the second speaker in the speaker series. Ma Jun.